Undertale is adored for many different things. Some love it for the story, some for the characters, but personally I love it for its unique combat mechanics where the whole ending depends on the choice to fight or resolve everything diplomatically. These attacks when you so gracefully dodge them like pow pow shoo, I like it in short. So one day when I wanted to play Undertale once again but was a bit bored of going through the same thing for the 25th time, literally 25th, I decided to feel myself in Sansa's shoes, what it's like to be the weakest monster in the game. That's why today's challenge is this. If possible, go through the entire game with only 1 HP, meaning literally defeat every boss without taking damage. Well, except for Omega Flowey, why I will explain at the end. And in addition, don't run away from battles, Undyne doesn't count, and no skips like using the spider donut or the stick. Oh, I feel like I'm going to see the game over screen a lot. Here we begin our journey. Right on our way we meet a very interesting flower named Flowey. He immediately offers to raise our LV, but we are not interested in this offer. First of all, because to increase this LV in this game, you know what you need to do. While I want to get the pacifist ending. And secondly, those pellets are nothing but lies anyway. This bro doesn't know who he is dealing with. I was rescued from this weirdo by Toriel, who offered to guide me through the ruins, and I gladly accepted this offer. We went wandering around this place. She taught me about the traps and stuff, even let me practice a battle on a dummy. I was so excited to tell him about... Oh, he is not in the mood for a conversation. I walked with her a little bit more, and at one point Toriel stopped, said that she had to go out on business, gave me her phone and asked me not to go anywhere and to wait for her in this room. Oh no. Alright, you know what, we should really had stayed in that room. Well, after this incident, my journey continued quite calmly. I completed a couple of puzzles, poked the mouse, had a talk with Snapstablock, twice had a talk with Snapstablock and somehow made it to Toriel's house on my own. Phew, finally a chance to lie down and rest. When I woke up I saw a pie on the floor left by Toriel. It was nice, but for now I'll have to put it in my pocket for the future. As nice as it was to live in Toriel's house, we had to continue our journey. Oh, it's me. Yes, let's stay on task. I asked Toriel to show me an exit, to which she, didn't react very positively. If I want to leave this place, I have to prove to her that I am strong enough. But there's no way I can prove it, because right at this moment in a normal game, a normal boss fight will start. But not in my case. If anyone doesn't know, in Undertale, when you fight Toriel, once you reach 2 or less HP, it becomes impossible to get hit by any attack, because Toriel doesn't want to kill us. And since I have a 1 HP mod, there's essentially no boss fight there. Well, you know why. Oh, by the way, if you don't mind, I'll be making a boss tier list along the way, because if others can do it, why can't I? Anyway, eventually Toriel let us go. I guess I proved something to her. So now we can move on. Man, this mod is supposed to make the game harder and not easier. But hey, I am not complaining. So I finally made it to the new location. As I wandered through this forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. Suddenly, out of the shadows, some unknown dark figure started approaching me. This figure asked me to turn around and shake its hand. Hesitant, I did what this mysterious person asked. And... Oh, it's Sans! Wait, what? Oh, it's Sans, goddammit, how did I not recognize him? Anyway, that's how I met another 2 of the main characters, the aforementioned comedian Sans and his brother Papyrus, who dreams of becoming a member of the Royal Guard. And speaking of which, the task of these Royal Guards is to capture a human, and since we are like, well, a human, throughout my entire journey in Snowdin, Papyrus and his brother did their best to capture me, but nothing seemed to work for them. Not even crosswords could stop me. So yeah, I just kept moving forward, going whenever my eyes took me, solving puzzles, poking the mouse, though I did get knocked out a couple of times by Crater Dog, which is the record so far, haha. I got hit by him the most times for now. And so I eventually made my way to the town. I chatted with the locals a bit and then move on. There wasn't much to do anyway. And at the end of my journey through Snowdin, Papyrus was waiting for me again. This time though, he was more serious than ever. Only by catching me completely, he could fulfill his dream of becoming the new member of the Royal Guard. Yippee! Finally a real boss battle to talk about. Papyrus is the first truly challenging encounter on my way. His attacks aren't complicated, there's no randomness in them, which, believe me, makes things a lot easier. Some of his attacks reminded me of something, and some I just absolutely hate. I've got hit on that one attack so many times it's unbearable. Technically though, you can't die in this fight. When your HP drops to 0, instead of seeing the game over screen, Papyrus just takes you to a maximum security prison where he strongly asks you not to escape and wait for some Undyne to show up. Anyway, as a boss, Papyrus wasn't too hard. It took me almost 30 minutes and only 15 attempts to beat him. Not bad, a well-deserved bit tire. After the fight, Papyrus was upset that he couldn't stop me. Let's forget about the fact that he imprisoned me like 15 times. But after I offered to be friends, he lit up with joy and ran off to his house. How did he even do that? Phew, after all this action, I need a break. First, I met up with Sans and we went to eat burgers together, and then I met up with Papyrus to hang out with him at his place. We are best bros now, hehe, no hard feelings please. After all that fun, I headed off to Waterfall. There I caught Papyrus meeting with Undyne. Papyrus told her about our encounter and, well, she didn't seem too happy to hear it. After I almost shit my pants when a spear nearly got thrown at me, I started exploring this new area. And honestly, the beginning was not very fun. The usual monsters here were a bit tougher to say the least. First, I kept dying to Aaron and Washer, then to Undyne who finally spotted me and started throwing spears like crazy. Jeez, get the hell away from me! Aw, thanks a lot, Monster Kid. After hearing him gush about how happy he was to be grabbed by Undyne, I went ahead. I poked the mouse, got tricked by Sans. Oh, this guy's such a throwback. Had a chat with Onion-san. It was quite long. Oh, and I even found a legendary artifact. Oh, wait, never mind. How I was scammed so easily. So, with a piece of dog residue in my inventory, I eventually ran into Undyne. Things escalated to the point where she cornered me and destroyed a bridge, making me fall all the way down and triggering a flashback. Honorary, huh? Hell yes I am. Turns out I landed in some sort of garbage dump. Great, just what I needed. As I tried to find a way out, I passed a dummy. And it was actually alive. This dummy started accusing me of saying something horrifying to the one back in the ruins that scared the ghost right out of it. Dude, I didn't even get to say a word to it. What is your deal? Of course, this mad dummy wasn't about to let me go without a fight. So, let's talk about it. I got hit 9 times during the fight, which is quite a lot, but since this boss wasn't as long as Papyrus, each hit didn't feel as painful. Oddly enough, I got caught more in the first phase, even though the second phase seemed harder, but alright. It's a solid C-tier boss, nothing more to say. Thankfully, Nepstabluk showed up and saved me from this crazy situation. Afterward, he subtly invited me to his place. Well, why not? I loved it. Afterward, I had a few more encounters with the Monster Kid and Undyne. In one of those moments, an unpleasant incident almost happened. The Monster Kid almost fell off a bridge, and while hero Undyne just stood here and stared, I stepped in to help him up. After I saved him, the Monster Kid cursed at Undyne, which made her run away. Probably ashamed. But I didn't have to wait long to face her again, and this time she was more determined than ever. Knowing a fight was inevitable, I boldly stepped forward and beat her in 3 tries. You know, after Papyrus, who, mind you, is just a member of the Royal Guard, that the head of the Royal Guard would be way tougher. But nope, Undyne was even easier than the dummy. What? Well, sorry, nothing personal. By the way, during the fight I received a call from Papyrus, who suggested that we all could hang out together sometime. And how I could ignore such an offer? In a moment I was already standing outside Undyne's house. For some reason she wasn't too happy to see us. I wonder why. When we were stayed alone after Papyrus bailed out of the window... Undyne asked me outright if I came here just to mess with her. Of course not. I came here to be friends. At first she laughed at the idea, but when Papyrus teased her about not being up for the challenge, she quickly changed her tune and tried to bond with us way too hard. So hard in fact that she burned her house down. Well, that was awkward. But hey, it looks like we became friends after all. Fate brought me to Hotland, the next stop on our journey. There I met Alphys, the royal scientist who had been watching over us during our entire trek up to this point. What do you mean watched? Well, she offered to help me on my journey, which I didn't mind. But there's a slight problem according to Alphys. She created a robot that was originally designed to entertain people, but after a small update, it kinda turned into an unstoppable killing machine with a thirst of human blood. Oh boy, at least I hope we don't run into it. I'm cooked. Wait, hold up. Turns out Mettaton isn't a killer at all, he just wants to host a quiz show. Aw, come on, quizzes are way too easy for me. So, 2 trains, train A and train B. D, final answer. I knew it. When Mettaton asked about the game Meow Meow Kissekuri, Alphys suddenly shouted out the answer, which made Mettaton suspicious that we were cheating, which of course was totally untrue. So he asked a question not very comfortable for the scientist. Who does Dr. Alphys have a crush on? Don't even know. Well, literally. After that bizarre quiz show, Mettaton disappeared, promising that we'll meet again. I started to head off, but Alphys stopped me to give her number. But when she saw how ancient my phone was, she decided to take it and upgrade it. Surprisingly, after the update, it didn't turn into a brick like phones usually do, and was actually better. With my new phone in hand, I continued my journey, and yeah, I walked for a long time. To sum it up, I solved puzzles with which Alphys helped me, well, tried to poke the mouse and even participated in more of Mettaton's show. Eventually, I stumbled upon Muffet. Ah yes, another mini-boss worth discussing. Muffet's battle had a unique purple heart mechanic. Honestly, I wouldn't say this battle was particularly difficult. In fact, I actually enjoyed fighting her, partly because of the music and how well designed the fight was. I took 13 hits and spent about 40 minutes on it, almost like Papyrus. Undyne is probably crying in a corner somewhere. After that encounter with Muffet, Mettaton was waiting for me again. First he put a whole concert and then of course tried to kill me again. Oh, typical Undertale robots, what else you can expect? Thankfully, Alphys helped me out once more, so I thanked her and made my way to Mettaton's hotel. A pretty strange choice after what happened just a second ago, but... okay. Through this hotel I headed to the core, where Alphys was trying to guide me, but this time she was kind of sloppy, constantly making mistakes and giving wrong directions. Yet despite that I reached the exit, where you'll never guess, Mettaton was waiting for me. But today's meeting was nothing like the previous ones. He told us that all this time when Alphys was helping us, that was actually a show. They staged all those encounters with Mettaton to make Alphys look good in our eyes. And now she was supposed to be waiting behind the door to save us one last time, but Mettaton had prepared a plot twist. The door in front of Alphys suddenly closed, and Mettaton started preparing a new show. Real drama, real action, real bloodshed. It was time for the grand finale. For some time I tried to do something against Mettaton on my own, until Alphys called and told me to press the switch on his back. Of course I did it, but I didn't expect what would happen next. And what followed was my favorite boss fight of this entire playthrough. Compared to Papyrus or Mettaton EX was quite easy, to be honest. Sure, I had to sweat during a few moments, but I enjoyed the fight so much that I didn't really care. It only took me 10 attempts to beat him, and it was fun. That's all I can say. Definitely C-tier. But the battle didn't end as happily as I'd hoped. You see, this form is not as energy efficient as the original one, so Mettaton started shutting down. The finale of his show was quite sad, but it certainly left a Mettaton-shaped hole in the hearts of everyone. Alphys managed to open the door to the room, but what she saw clearly upset her. She told me to move on, but then she caught up with me, and when I was ready to enter the elevator, she told me that my soul wasn't enough to cross the barrier. I needed the soul of a monster, hinting me what I will have to do at the end. After this news, I headed toward the house, which looked like the house of Toriel from the beginning of the game. Here I picked up 2 gifts. A dagger and a heart-shaped locket, the only 2 items I equipped in this playthrough. Reaching the end, I finally met the king of the underground, Asgore. Neither of us was prepared for what was about to happen, so Asgore told us to approach the barrier when we were ready. Taking the pie and the dog residue with me, don't ask why, I entered the passage. It seemed like our adventure was finally coming to an end, and I, filled with determination, entered the battle. And you know, at first I expected this fight to be like all the previous ones, not too difficult. Of course, since this was basically the final boss, I figured it would take me many attempts, but up until now the most I had was 15, so here will be maybe 25, 30, no more. 132. I died 132 times in the battle with Asgore. I don't know if there was something wrong with me, but I just couldn't beat him. These 2 attacks will haunt me in my nightmares, until I barely figured out the pattern. Nearly every attempt ended on them. But even after figuring out these attacks, I kept dying because they are random. I can't predict where anything will go. I spent a total of 3 hours and 30 minutes on Asgore. And you know, if I could say I had fun fighting the other bosses and never got tired with this fluffy freak. Sorry Asgore, I mean it lovingly. After the first 30 minutes, it clearly stopped being fun. Asgore isn't even S tier anymore. He's S with pluses. But one thing I can say for sure is that when I finally managed to defeat him, I almost started dancing. I was so happy, haha. But if only I knew what was coming next. After I spared Asgore, of course Flowey had to show up and ruin everything. After killing Asgore and taking the human souls, he transformed into Omega Flowey, and the battle with him was... Remember at the beginning of the video I said that I'd explain why Omega Flowey was an exception for the challenge rules. I'll explain now. At first I really tried to fight him with only 1 HP. I spent 2.5 hours training myself, trying to see how long I could last. My maximum was maybe 18 seconds. The thing is, compared to all the previous bosses, and even compared to Sans, the fight with him was deliberately unfair. After dodging 1 attack without damage, I'd immediately get hit by next one, because I was either standing in the wrong place or just got unlucky. I am not saying it's impossible to beat this boss with 1 HP. It's possible, but it's really hard. You can try it yourself and you'll understand what I mean. You have to be both incredibly skilled and incredibly lucky, and that's why this boss is beyond me. Besides, the mod I'm using for the video doesn't support 1 HP in this fight. Well, but I still wanted to leave some kind of challenge, so I decided to fight him without healing, and if I accidentally healed, I'd restart the game. This of course made the task much easier, but even for this challenge it took me 61 attempts. If I lost 61 times just without healing, you can imagine what it would have been like with 1 HP. Well, that tire speaks for itself. So with a few HP in my pocket, I landed the final hit. thinking that was the end of him, but Flowey didn't think so. Of course he started mocking me, saying that no one will help me, but in the last one he kinda screwed up. After everything that happened, I was left one-on-one with the normal Flowey. The game gave me the choice to spare him or... yeah, you know what I choose. Considering everything Flowey had done, he didn't expect such kindness from me, so he started crying and ran away. Then all was left is to cross the barrier. And my journey... no, it wasn't over. I still wanted to get the best ending, so I went back to my save file and went to talk to Undyne. She gave me a letter that I had to deliver to Alphys. Not knowing what was inside, I slipped it under the door of the lab, and what Alphys told me after that, I certainly didn't expect, because she invited me on a date? Alphys, wait, you got it all wrong! And gosh, I wish we could just talk normally, but no. In the end, we actually went on a date, because we decided tactically not to say anything and stay silent the whole time. Why? But still, it didn't end too badly. It all led to a conversation where Alphys admitted that she went on this date for fun. But with Undyne, she really wants to go on a date. She wants it so badly that she shouted about it so loudly at the dump that Undyne heard it herself. In the end, no matter how awkward this situation seemed, it ended quite well. Anyway, I hope to see them in the future on a real date, but for now I'm heading back to Alphys' lab, because Papyrus called and told me to come there, very urgently. When I arrived, I saw a note in which Alphys said that she wanted us to know the truth, and that we needed to head to the elevator. As I started going down, the elevator suddenly lost power, and we fell all the way to the bottom, and ended up in the real lab. And, the truth Alphys mentioned, well... failed experiment with determination on monsters, who, after all these experiments, started melting and fusing together, forced to suffer for the rest of their lives. I wish I hadn't learned this truth. Barely I managed to get the elevator working. Just after pressing the button, the amalgamates started slowly approaching me, but Alphys stopped all of them. She told me the whole truth about the experiments and how horrible she feels about how everything turned out. So she decided, instead of hiding the amalgamates here, just take them all home. And I think that's the right decision. After all this, I went to the elevator. When I received a strange call, the elevator started working and I went back up. It's time to finish our long journey. This time for sure. Despite everything, it's still me. I approached Asgore again, and he told me the same thing as before our battle, but instead of a fight, he was greeted by a fireball from Toriel and a bunch of insults right to his face. I actually felt sorry for him. Suddenly, all our friends started gathering here. They began talking to each other, getting to know each other better, but at some point, Alphys asked Papyrus how he knew how to call everyone, to which he replied that a little flower helped him. Oh no. Of course, that fool started rambling again about how he's a master manipulator, pulling the strings and fooling everyone around him. But the ordinary monsters of the underground weren't going to tolerate that, so they all gathered at that place to help us. But Flowey instead just absorbed everyone's souls. Well, okay, in that regard he really did fool everyone. Flowey finally revealed himself to us in his true form. The form he had before he died. The son of Toriel and Asgore, Asriel Dreemurr. Alright, I should probably talk about the fight now. Well, at this point I wasn't even counting how many times I died to him, because, first of all, technically you can't die in this fight. Secondly, because checkpoints are set 3 turns back when you reach a new attack. And thirdly, I took so much damage that I lost count. Okay, If I died 132 times on Asgore, then here probably around 200? I wouldn't be surprised if that's accurate. Well, let's just skip to the second phase, because that's where it gets interesting. Asriel left me only able to act, but even when I tried, nothing happened. With each death to Asriel, the world started to forget about my existence. I tried to act, nothing happens. I tried to move my body, nothing happens. I tried to reach my save file, nothing happens. It seems like saving the game really is impossible, but with the little power I have left, I can save someone else. Suddenly, the option changed to save. After saving all my friends and reminding them of who I am, only one action remained: saving Asriel. Not understanding what this feeling was, he tried to stop us, speaking to the human, the one he met long ago. Even before all of this, he begged us to stop, pointing a beam at us. But he didn't want to kill us, so leaving us with very little HP, he stopped the fight. After everything that happened, we had a small conversation. Asriel told us how he felt everyone caring for us and how ashamed he was of all the bad things he had done. The last thing he could do for this world was, with the power he had, destroy the barrier and release all the souls. And that's exactly what he did. As a farewell, we hugged him, and suddenly we woke up. All our friends we met on our journey were standing before us. They told us that somehow the barrier suddenly disappeared, and now we could go free, which we immediately did. After standing for a while and watching this beautiful view, everyone went off to explore this new world, and after talking with Toriel for a bit, we joined the others. And so the story came to an end. I hope you enjoyed following my journey while hearing about my suffering against the bosses, haha. What can I say about the challenge in general? Well, obviously, yes, it was hard. What else is there to say? But I can't say I didn't like it either. It was a very interesting challenge. According to the game files, I died a total of 224 times, but trust me, that number is much higher. At the very least, I don't think it accounts the deaths to Asriel, and it's not a small number for sure. So yeah, the link to the mod I used in this video will be in the description. And for everyone who interested, here's the full tier list I made throughout this video. And finally, thanks for watching.